y'all, it's Ilana and welcome back to my channel. Please excuse my face. I recently got surgery done on my chin and I'm still very swollen. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, I wanted to discuss what we're talking about in today's video, and that is why I would never ever go on a reality dating television show. I've been single for 10.5 years and people have asked me like, Ilana, why not just go on a TV show? And the answer is LOL, no. So we're gonna get into that right now. So just so we're clear, I absolutely love reality television. Oh my God, it is a huge guilty pleasure for me, especially dating reality television shows. There are quite a few reality television shows that focus around love and dating, and those are gonna be some of the shows I'm gonna talk about in this video. As much as I enjoy watching them, that doesn't mean I necessarily want to be on them. And I am going to explain why, even though I've been single for a long time, and that meeting somebody on TV could still be a way to meet somebody. That's not how I want to meet my person. Funny enough, one thing that I want to share is that I have actually gotten invited to be on 2 different television shows that focus on dating. This happened back in 2019, actually. Both invitations were in 2019. So I remember I got one email from somebody from a Gmail account, and I truly thought that it was fake because it came from a Gmail account. And part of me actually wonders if maybe this was an actual producer who was using their Gmail account, because their entire email actually ended up checking out. But I am almost positive that I had gotten invited to be on a show called The 12 Dates of Christmas, which is a show featured on HBO Max. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't heard of it. So I got this email, I wanna say around like October or November 2019, and I was told that the production was gonna be starting in February 2020. It would take place in a big European castle where there would be lots of snow, and the theme would focus around Christmas. I will be honest, I did not reply back to this email, especially with the fact that it came from a Gmail account. But then when I did research a few months later, it turns out that the email actually was legit. And I just found that really surprising, because why wouldn't you email me from your like network business email, or if you were a producer for HBO, whatever the case was? Why were you using a Gmail account? So that didn't make sense. So part of me felt like this was fake. It was just a way to potentially trick me. It was sketchy that I was being reached out to by a Gmail account for a dating reality television show, and I seriously thought that my life was at stake and that I was potentially going to be captured and be never seen again. But everything that they described in that email was the 12 Dates of Christmas. That would have been kind of cool, but at the same time, it's like, do they even know anything about me? I am Jewish. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Christmas. I'm a Christmas-loving Jew. But I think it would be a little weird for me to be on a Christmas dating show at the same time, despite the fact that I love Christmas. So I felt like they kind of missed the mark with reaching out to me on that one. But that is a pretty wide-watched dating show on HBO Max, and it comes out during the holiday time. So it could have been cool, but obviously like I felt like the email was fake. And again, it just would have been weird for me as a Jewish person to have gone on that show if it really was me thinking that it was a legit email. So that was one TV show that reached out to me. I also got reached out by someone on Instagram, and I tried to go back to find the DM thread and I couldn't find it for some reason. This was a legit person. I looked them up on LinkedIn, everything checked out. They truly said who they were, and it was for some reality dating show where it would be kind of like something in the wilderness, and it would be like a survival elimination show. And I immediately knew like that was not gonna be a good fit for me, because I just knew that I would be totally miserable on that kind of television show. And I just simply told the producer or the casting person, whoever it was at the time that reached out to me, saying like, I am so flattered you would want me on your show, but at the same time, I wouldn't be able to mentally handle this. It was just a solid no for me, but I appreciate you reaching out. I have no idea what show that was because, to be honest, I didn't really care at the time. It was the first email where I cared and discovered, oh, I was reached out for the 12 Dates of Christmas. So that's some tea that I've never spilled about myself on my channel before. So I have been contacted before to be on 2 dating TV shows, and I turned them down. Let's talk about 4 dating reality shows that I watch and why I would absolutely never go on them. The Bachelor Nation series. So clearly I would have to go on The Bachelor in order to be a contestant to find love as a woman for a man. I would absolutely never go on The Bachelor. Let's just talk about how I absolutely do not like sharing. I am selfish. I am a monogamous dater. I know that I would get super jealous during this show. It would completely do terrible things to my mental health. It would just fuel me with so much anxiety, wondering where this guy would stand with me and if he has a true connection with me. And I know being eliminated would definitely be a very low blow to my ego, to my self-esteem, and it would make me feel like I would not be good enough for this show. Also, I actually know somebody who was on Nick Viall's season. I'm not gonna say who it is, and she was giving me a lot of the tea, saying that none of the women even really care about the lead, which really even shouldn't come as a shock to you because people who go on that show just want to be on TV, and basically they have to kind of fake it till they make it to make it seem like they truly were falling in love, and they do it for TV. And I'm not saying that every single connection on that show was fake. There probably were some real connections, but she would tell me that girls who would cry in the limo after they got eliminated, they were just sad that their time on TV was pretty much up. The producers really manipulate a lot of the things that the contestants have to do, and she said that it was very scripted, and the show will edit it the way that it wants to edit it. They don't care how they make you look. That is ABC for you. So it was really interesting to hear her perspective and have her be able to share that information with me. I think she was no longer under an NDA at that time, so it was very easy for her to like spill the beans on what she went through. I just know that I absolutely would not tolerate the producers' bullshit. I would be such a horrible lead if I was ever the Bachelorette, and I would constantly be telling the producers, no, you can't tell me what to do. Like, I would literally just be absolutely the worst, and I would make sure that the producers were not going to manipulate me and tell me who I need to keep, because if I truly was on that show for love, I want it to be my journey, not the producer's journey. And it's a shame because my choices could not necessarily make good TV, and they can't let that happen. So I just know that if I was a contestant on The Bachelor, I probably would be such a huge problem for the producers, and they would probably find some way to manipulate the lead to tell me that it's time for me to go home and not give me a rose because I'm just too stubborn or whatever. So that's basically why I would never go on The Bachelor. I just also feel like I don't meet a certain level of beauty standards for The Bachelor. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not beautiful, because I definitely do think I'm beautiful, but let's be real, I got purple hair, I don't have lip filler, I don't have eyelash extensions, I don't wear a really small size in clothing like most of these women do. There's no body diversity. I feel like they've gotten a little bit more diverse in terms of casting, but it's still not enough, and we all know that the Bachelor Nation series has such a huge problem with diversity and racism and other issues that go on that have made the show become very controversial and problematic over the past few years. And so I just know that it's not something that I would want to be a part of. Will I happily be somebody tuning in every Monday night and watching? Yes, absolutely. But to be on that show and to just have my mental health be exploited and to just feel like I'm being edited or depicted in the wrong light, I don't want that for myself. And I just know that's just not the ideal environment of how I want to find a potential lifelong partner. We literally just wrapped up season 2 of Love is Blind. Let's talk about that. So by the time this video comes out, the reunion will have also come out. So I can't wait to watch what a shit show that reunion episode's going to be. But besides the point, I just simply could not bring myself to date somebody without knowing what they look like, only meeting them over a few days, having them blindly propose to me, and then me revealing myself to what I look like to them, and they would reveal themselves to what they look like to me. And then I would have to wonder, would I even find this person attractive? Oh my god, now it's just awkward, because even though we've established an emotional connection, physical connection is still just as important. It can't be one way or the other. It needs to be both. You need to both be emotionally and physically invested in your partner, not one way or the other, else you're just really not gonna have a fulfilling relationship, in my opinion. Oh, and that's another thing that I forgot to mention about being on The Bachelor. I couldn't just date somebody or be on a show for like a month or two and then get engaged at the end of that. That's just too quick for me. I could never do it. And it's the same thing with Love is Blind. It's a very short-term engagement, and weddings happen shortly after you get engaged, and you spend a few weeks getting to know that person and living with them and seeing how you interact and whether or not you two truly are compatible in the real world outside of the pods. It just blows my mind that when it comes to the wedding day, if you make it to the wedding day, if someone says I don't to you, that's gonna be on television and millions of people are gonna watch that, and that's gonna be really humiliating. Let's say I do to somebody if I was on that show, and then the person I was engaged to and at the altar with says I don't. I'm gonna be crushed and devastated and really humiliated, knowing that's gonna be shown to millions of people to watch, and it's gonna make me feel really bad about myself. People are gonna form their own negative opinions, or maybe they'll have positive opinions, who knows, but that is just absolutely something that I could just never put myself through. I just think the whole concept of Love is Blind is very crazy. It's a great show. I mean, I love watching it. Okay, it's not great in terms of like being an Emmy-winning type show, but it's very entertaining to watch. We all love to hate all the bad guys. We all love to love all the people that are just so unproblematic. I mean, you know, I am Team Deep D all the way. If you know, you know. That is a show that I would absolutely never do. Absolutely not. So this was a show that I used to watch in college and grad school. I don't know if it's still running or not, but it was on MTV and it's called Are You the One? And basically the whole concept of Are You the One is you take a bunch of personality tests and work with matchmakers to talk about your interests and personalities and who you are as a person. And then you live in a house with a bunch of other singles. So I think it's like 10 single women and 10 single men, and everyone is paired up with somebody, but they don't know who their match is. And it's up to the house to figure out who their match is, and they had this whole like over-dramatized match calculator thing that they did where you would go in, if someone would vote a couple to go into the, oh god, what was that room called? It was basically the little hut where they had the dramatized laser thing to scan them to see if they were a perfect match or not. God, I can't even remember what the name of that room was. But basically, they had to figure out if they were a perfect match, and at the end of every episode, they would ask, so who do you think your perfect match is? And then they would have a couple beams of lights that they would need to meet. So I think it would be 10 beams of lights that they had to meet. And if they were able to get all the perfect matches figured out, then they could win money. And I remember there was one season where they absolutely lost and they didn't get any money. But most seasons that I've watched, they won, which was really crazy. I still think that production had to have helped them in some capacity, but it's kind of interesting to see like how they're able to come together, stop being selfish and put their romantic interests aside and figure out who is that perfect match, and then it's up to them to see like why they were considered to be a perfect match to begin with. While the concept of this whole thing is really cool, the problem with this is that MTV is very dramatic and they typically like to have very young 20-somethings who are very immature and childish and just really, how do I want to put this? They really encourage just a lot of bad behavior. I feel like I'm too old for that show. I mean, I'm in my 30s and they probably would never want to cast somebody who's over 30. It's typically people in their 20s and they are people who typically suck at relationships or they've had bad dating habits in relationships. And I've never really been that kind of person. Yes, I've been single for a really long time, but I'm not bad at relationships. It's the fact that I have just struggled to find meaningful connection with people, or I've just simply been wronged by men, or they just simply are not interested in me, and that's fine. They're allowed to not feel it with me. But at the same time, like, I don't think I'm a bad dater. Like, I don't think I've really been the huge problem in a relationship, and that's what's kept me single. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. But I just feel like I would not be the right kind of person for that show. I feel like I could probably figure out my match just by saying, okay, who hates cats? Who doesn't want kids? Okay, you're not my match. I mean, my perfect match would have to want kids and love cats, end of story. I just would not want to be involved with that kind of drama. And also, there's a lot of making out on these reality television shows. There's a lot of sexual behavior that gets televised and recorded. And I personally don't want people on national television to see me getting intimate with somebody, because they do film those scenes where you're getting down with someone, and I'm just certainly not about that. More power to the people who don't mind that. It is totally your prerogative. They know what they're signing up for. But I personally wouldn't feel comfortable with people watching me make out with people or potentially like having sex with someone in bed. Like, no, that's private and it does not need to be filmed for millions of people to watch. So I do like the idea, but I would not be the right fit for that show. I loved watching it, but no, I would absolutely get miserable, especially if I found somebody I did like and then they turned on me. I know I would get upset, and again, I can't put myself through that. And then we have Too Hot to Handle. So I love this show. I still need to catch up on season 3. I heard it got really bad in season 3, which is why I need to watch it. But again, I'm too old for this show. I've noticed that it's still like the same kind of people that they cast for Are You the One? The wild, horny 20-something that is very young and immature, has a lot of commitment issues, and maybe not necessarily emotionally available, and all they really care about is sex and not meaningful connection. And that's not exactly what I'm looking for. And I can tell you, I'm a very sexual person, and the whole focus of that show pretty much is to avoid having sex. I personally don't think I could do it. I know that I would eventually give into some sort of temptation, just knowing myself and the fact that I'm a Scorpio. I mean, come on, y'all. And I always just feel like they only cast models and Instagram baddies. And clearly, again, I'm not a model, and I just don't feel like I fit that beauty standard that they're looking for. And again, not to say that I'm not beautiful, I am. But if we're talking about these stereotypical beauty standards that are put on women, I don't meet them. And that's okay. I am proud of how I am, and I know that I'm beautiful despite the fact that I got liposuction on my chin recently. I mean, we all have our insecurities. I just don't think anyone would find me attractive if I went on that show. Of course, like, I could be just being too hard on myself, but I'm just being real. Like, I don't meet those beauty standards. I'm not a model. I don't have that model look to me. And that's okay. That's basically like why I would never go on these shows. Like, I just feel like going on these reality television shows, especially that focus on dating, would just be so damaging for my mental health. I would get very jealous, and I just don't want to deal with the kind of backlash or hate that could potentially come out after the show ends and everything's aired. I just feel like reality television fans can be so toxic, and I want nothing to do with that. Even though I talked about specific shows that I watch, those are still all valid reasons as to why I would never ever go on a dating reality television show. Even if I was the perfect fit for a show, I still wouldn't put myself through that, because there's still going to be producer manipulation of some sort. There's still going to be editing that can manipulate how you're going to be depicted on a television. There will still be drama of some sort, and I just want absolutely no part of it. I will say, if I were to ever go on a reality television show, it would be Big Brother. I really like Big Brother a lot. It would be so much fun to do all those competitions and try to win 500K. That would be such a fun show to go on to. I know that also would probably be sucky for my mental health, but at least, like, I'm not going in there to date people. I'm going in there to play a game and try and win some money and showcase my personality and who I am. And if I were to end up losing, okay, I end up losing, but at the end of the day, I would much rather have that kind of experience being on reality television than doing it while trying to date somebody. Not the way that I want to do it. So my question for you is, if you're single, would you ever go on a reality dating television show? If so, comment down below and let me know what it is. I'm curious to know what your perspective is. If you liked this video, do make sure you give it a thumbs up. And with that, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!